Greetings. Hello, everyone. I am Tanya Moran Adolph. I'm Associate Director of Generational Programs at the USC Alumni Association. Welcome to the Half Century Trojans Orange County Speaker event, Learn About Technology to Support a Healthier You. We are delighted to have so many loyal Trojans with us today. Before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items. Next slide. And so this presentation will be recorded today. You should have seen a little pop-up that says continue. Please hit continue. Your video and audio have been muted, but the Q&A is available to ask questions. So that's at the bottom of your screen. It says Q&A, it has little chat boxes. Click on that and type in your questions. And you can type those in as we go through the program. And then our speaker will answer them at the end. So thanks very much. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Paul Allwine. He is a Half Century Trojans board member and chair of today's program. Hi, Paul.
Hi, thank you, Tanya, and hello, Half Century Trojans. I'd like to welcome you to our first event of the new year. This is our first virtual Orange County speaker event. So we're happy to welcome you to this annual program, wherever you are. We have a wonderful presentation ahead. As caretakers of USC history and tradition, Half Century Trojans are uniquely positioned to promote the Trojan spirit and to strengthen the bonds that connect USC alumni across generations. We host a variety of programs designed to stimulate university-related interest, participation, and engagement. Next month, on February 3rd, we'll come together virtually for the 13th annual Half Century Trojans Going Back to College Day. We'll share more about this after today's program. I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Stacey Schepens Niemiec, Associate Professor of Research at the USC Chan Division of Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy, who will share recent innovations in technology-based interventions designed to support productive and healthy aging, and we all want that. Dr. Schepens Niemiec research focuses broadly on the promotion of health and wellness in older individuals. She relies on multidisciplinary combination of occupational therapy, instructional technology, and gerontology principles to guide her investigations with an eye toward development of lifestyle-based interventions that are designed to counterbalance the chronic health problems that beset the older population. She also has with her today 3 students, Daphne Carcedo, Rafael Wagas, and John J. Lee, who will be joining our session today. So please give a very warm Half Century Trojan welcome to Dr. Stacey Schepens Niemiec.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you to all the Half Century Trojans here. I'm excited to be at this esteemed event, even if it's from a distance. But perhaps this format is maybe the most appropriate given the topic. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, and is that visible?
Yes, we are good. Thank you.
Great. All right, so I plan to discuss with you today technology for productive aging through an occupational therapy lens. We'll talk more about that. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my background so you know where I came from. I have a bachelor's and master's of science in occupational therapy from Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. That's where I'm originally from, if you can hear it in my accent. My master's degree had a special emphasis on assistive technology. I also earned my PhD in instructional technology from Wayne State University with a specialized focus in interactive technology. During that time, I completed a predoctoral fellowship in aging and urban health from the Institute of Gerontology. And then I continued on for a postdoctorate in physical medicine and rehabilitation at the University of Michigan, go Blue, focusing on the impact of fatigue and pain on older adults' daily activities. I capped off my education with one more year of postdoctorate education on clinical trials methodology at the USC Chan Division of Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy, where I am research faculty there today. As Paul had already described to you, he lets you know my focus in my lab. So I am the director of the Healthy Aging Research and Technology Lab, or what we call the HEART Lab. And I use occupational therapy, instructional technology, and gerontological principles to develop lifestyle interventions, really with a specific focus on applying technology as best I can within those interventions. And this is so that older adults can live a meaningful, healthy life as long as possible. But you're probably asking yourself, if you're not familiar with occupational therapy, what is occupational therapy, or what we call OT? OT really does help people across the lifespan to do the things that they need to do and want to do. And we use therapeutic use of daily activities, or what we call occupations. So we aim to help people of all ages to gain or regain the skills they need for the job of living. We work side by side with individuals, helping them live their life to its fullest by promoting healthful activity and helping people prevent or live better with injury, illness, or disability. I use occupational science as the foundation of my research, and I'm guided by a few theoretical frameworks for the various interventions I study, which might be of interest to you. I ascribe to the life course perspective as a primary guide to my work. With this perspective, the pathways between life phases, life transitions, and turning points, they all affect later life health. This perspective also considers the social and cultural factors, all the way from the micro level to the macro level, and how that influences a person's aging experience. And depending on which of my studies we are discussing, additional theories arise as a foundation for the interventions that I develop. So one of them is situated learning theory, and this arises when there is an educational or learning component to an intervention that I'm developing. As ascribed by this theory, learning occurs best when it's in place or in context. So when we present knowledge or new knowledge, it really needs to be in an authentic context. Where would you use it in real life? Another theory is the social cognitive theory. This discusses various determinants of health promoting behavior, whether it be self-regulation, self-efficacy, social support, or outcomes expectations. I heavily embed these concepts in any of the interventions that require behavior change, not just knowledge acquisition. Finally, stereotype embodiment theory surfaces in my work that is designed to encourage older adults to think about their occupational possibilities, or what is possible to do in older adulthood. This theory describes the process and consequences of internalizing age stereotypes, whether those stereotypes are positive or whether they're negative. It draws on evidence that aging self-perceptions and general views about aging are associated with health and survival. So that's a summary of the theoretical framework that drives my work. So now that we've kind of gone through my background as an OT researcher, Let's shift gears to the actual topic for today. To get you in the right frame of mind, I want you to start off by having you imagine the technology you've encountered just today alone. Okay. If you are comfortable, go ahead and drop a little note in the Q&A chat section that Tanya had instructed in the beginning. I would be interested to know, what kind of technology did you encounter today? What I can do is I can think about, for my own self, I've already encountered, let's see, the coffee maker, the alarm clock. I had to get something out of my car, so I had to interact with all the technology involved in my car, my vibrating toothbrush. Let's see, what else? A long list. I watched a quick bit of Netflix with my coffee this morning. So you can see how there's a lot of technology that happens just in a few hours of interaction that you probably, if you really sat and thought about it, you probably couldn't even count on a single hand or even two hands how many pieces of low-tech to high-tech technology that you've encountered just before noon. So from an occupational therapy lens, we appreciate that technology plays a highly prominent role in our lives. Leaders in our field have recognized that there is no single force that has had more of an impact on quality of life across society than technology. And we deeply appreciate that technology has a role in occupation so fundamental, it must be considered an essential building block of our occupations. Okay. So now, as you look at this picture, I want you to think for a moment about how technology has changed across your lifespan. This image depicts some differences across time of how people may engage in various occupations as facilitated by technology or perhaps the lack of technology. So one interesting element in this picture is to note the difference in how we take care of or track our own health. So in the older person's mind on the right side, it shows an actual clinician. But in the younger person's mind, you see what I call Dr. Google or some other health tracking platform. So what this really is saying is that how we take care of ourselves and how we interact with clinicians or medical information, that alone has changed pretty drastically across the past decade or two. I also want you to look at the affordances or the properties of the products that define the possible uses for it. That has changed substantially across time as well. So when you look at a rotary phone and pretending that that you've never seen one or you don't know how to use it, what about that product gives you clues as to how it's used? So, for instance, the spaces for the rotary dial fit most fingers, and the one-way dial direction makes control intuitive. Also, the shape of the handset is molded for gripping. So when you look at the handset, you know that that's something you could hold. You also know the orientation of the object, which way it's supposed to go, partly because the cord restricts it from being flipped around in the incorrect direction. But now I want you to think about a cell phone. When you look at the cell phone, does it have the similar affordances? Do you know how to use it just by looking at it? Not necessarily. Now, it might have a depression in the center for you to press a button, but you don't necessarily know, or some phones don't even have that depression at all. We also, as time has gone on, we might also have a sense of what touch screens look like, so we know that you can touch it to interact with it. But again, these are things that have changed over time. And one takeaway from this image is that how drastically technology has changed across one's lifespan. And what this means is that it's necessary to consider the consequences of such changes as it relates to older people and how they learn new technology and how they engage in daily occupations using such technology. So technology, which is part of mobile health, or what we call mHealth, to improve health behavior is actually a cutting edge area of science. Yet not surprisingly, technology-based health solutions are rarely applied to older adults, at least in terms of when they're first developed. This failure to connect older adults with technology, with technology-based interventions, it actually threatens equal access to health resources and threatens to worsen what we call the digital divide. This digital divide has been exacerbated by the pandemic, as you can imagine, particularly for those older adults who have limited comfort with using technology to engage and to participate in life. And because technology is at the very core of our well-being as occupational therapy sees it, this digital divide can present an occupational injustice. So what exactly do statistics show about technology use in older adult populations? First, it is myth that older people are not using technology. You being here today is proof of this. It is also myth that those who are not using such technology prefer it that way. Rather, people might be facing barriers to technology use, such as lack of having digital literacy, or maybe they don't have the economic resources, thus it impedes their ability to utilize it. But ultimately, their desire to use it is still there. So the truth is that older people are more digitally connected than they've ever been in history. Technology adoption is rapidly growing in older age groups, and the rate at which it is increasing is the fastest in older generations than in any other age group. So let's look here. You can see in these graphs the rate at which older adult technology use has changed from 2000 to 2016. I want you to keep an eye on that dark blue line, which represents adults ages 65 years and older. You can see that the inclines are steep and they are steady. And you can only imagine what the data would look like once we add 2020 to these figures, given the necessity of technology use that the pandemic mandates have created. In fact, well-educated older people like yourself use technology at similar rates to younger people. In a study I'm currently finishing up on developing a smartphone app for older people, many of my older participants had smartphones more sophisticated than mine and were much more comfortable using it than I was when I tried to navigate, say, their settings to just download the app that I was trying to. So it shows you that older adults know how to use technology, and they can and will use it. So technology use among older generations is changing quickly, as I just showed you, especially in baby boomers. The life circumstances of boomers tend to facilitate technology use. This group represents a wealthier and highly educated generation, which is associated with technology use. But also, technology use may be a necessity for this generation. They have fewer children, so they may have to rely on technology to support their daily activities and their daily living. When it comes to assistive technology use, and this can range from devices such as hearing aids or high contrast color keyboards to low effort steering wheels while driving. Rates of adoption vary actually quite widely, anywhere from 35% to 85% actually adopt assistive technology long term. The concerning factor, especially for us clinicians, is some research has shown that older adults would rather give up an occupation than use a technological solution to compensate for that occupation. So what affects usage rate? Actually, the reasoning for declining assistive technology use can be related to lack of proper training provided to the person by the caregiver or whoever, or the care provider who gave that equipment or that technology to the person. It might also be an issue of aesthetics of the technology. Does it stand out, or does it create stigma associated with it? Or perhaps it's a lack of a proper match of the technology to the person's needs. So the good news is that assistive technology is increasingly acceptable in baby boomer generation and can be critical if they don't have other support systems to age in place. Okay, so the next question I ask is, why do we care about whether or not older adults are using technology? As we discussed at the beginning, our occupations and health are fully situated in and surrounded by technology, regardless of age, truly. Technological living is unavoidable at this point. There are myriad benefits to using technology. It can be that technology increases one's social awareness, such as keeping up with current events or affairs happening, say, on the TV. It can also improve one's self-understanding, perhaps related to their own health. It can help one achieve various goals, such as completing holiday shopping or being able to manage your finances. Or it might even open opportunities for educational opportunities. I heard you're going back to school next month. So again, being able to access technology gives you that chance to do that. It might also open doors for employment or volunteer opportunities that would have otherwise been inaccessible without said technology. There may also be significant social benefits, keeping you connected with friends across the globe, and really communication benefits. I think back to my high school days when I would have to use payphones to let my parents know that I was ready to be picked up. Nowadays, I panic if my phone dies when I'm in IKEA and I get separated from my husband and I cannot problem solve for the life of me. How am I going to find my husband in this gigantic place? So you can see that our reliance on technology has changed substantially as well. You can see here just some of the ways commercial technology can address relevant domains of health, whether it be fall prevention, using the Apple Watch to detect abnormal gait or walking patterns, or perhaps it's medication management, such as using a smart pill box that reminds a person when it's time to take certain prescriptions. Each of these domains listed here represent a small portion of ways technology can support productive aging. In the end, those who are on that wrong side of the digital divide face exclusion from these benefits and from activities that could bring meaning and health and joy to their lives. So the last portion here is a potent one. Technology use is a strong predictor of health decline. So research shows that abandonment of technology can indicate bigger health issues. They're on the rise. For example, onset of dementia alters the relationship a person has with everyday technology. Perhaps the person begins finding it difficult to understand which buttons to press on the cell phone to reach their grandchild, or which combination of buttons are necessary to make their daily cup of coffee with the Keurig machine. But we also see decline in technology use with physical health decline. So not just cognitive. We start noticing a person's decreasing ability to complete activities of daily living independently, like paying one's bills. And because we know technology use is so important, the next question is, what are we doing to bridge this digital divide? Likewise, researchers are aware of the role technology plays in health and that our innovations need to improve. Only then might digital health have the reach and the health outcomes we want for older people. Okay, so what are we doing to make sure technology is serving the older population? And that's where I say, enter Geron Technology. What I mean by Geron Technology, this is defined as designing technology and the environment for independent living and social participation of older persons in good health, comfort, and safety. Geron Technology, it doesn't mean just bigger buttons and louder audio. It means putting older adults at the very center of the design process and aiming to meet their needs and aspirations. So the purpose of Geron Technology is manifold, many of which are listed here. So it ranges from helping older adults to live their best lives and attaining equal access to health supportive tools, to enhancing dignity when faced with psychosocial or physical challenges. Researchers, innovators, and technology designers can address this persistence in the digital divide by collaborating with older people as co-developers or co-designers. And by doing this, it produces more useful and effective products. As I design technology for older people, I embed this strategy into my efforts, starting at the very early stages of development and taking them all the way through optimization and product or device implementation. At the end of this talk, I have left you with a few resources that can help you get involved in such research. In the assistive technology arena, a combination of technology personalized to meet an individual's needs and good provider-client communication, that's what leads to better adherence with technology and ultimately better health outcomes. So a good example I can think of is proper fitting and follow through with a mobility aid, such as a walker or a cane. Sure, there are lots of off-the-shelf products that you can get from CVS at any point, but unfortunately, without making sure that technology is fit to your body type, or if it takes into consideration the terrains that you commonly encounter. Here in California, ice is not a thing, but where I'm back in Michigan, ice is definitely an issue we need to be concerned about. So does the device accommodate walking on ice and in deep snow? So healthcare providers like OT and PT can actually resolve those issues by communicating with you as the client and getting a full picture of how you will fit your technology into your daily life and your lifestyle. And when older people feel confident and comfortable with operating technology and also have the motivation to use it, that is the technology that serves some meaningful purpose in one's life. That's when adoption and adherence is much stronger. Okay. So now let's shift gears to talk a bit about some of the technology and gerund technology available on the market or products under investigation in the research arena where I'm at. I will feature some of my own work in the Heart Lab and other bits of research from innovators across the world working towards the same goal of developing technology that can support healthy, productive aging and aging in place. Okay. Although this list is not exhaustive, here are several different categories of current day technology, examples of which you've probably seen in the mainstream media or even come across in your daily lives. Telehealth and remote monitoring is probably the first trending category here. With stay-at-home orders from COVID-19, we saw a boom in telehealth services available for all sorts of conditions and interactions. And this really did overcome the barrier of proximity, being able to get to your providers. However, a national poll on healthy aging revealed that older adults have several concerns that underlie this movement towards telehealth. The majority of seniors are concerned that a physical exam can't be done and that the quality of care is not as good as in-person visits are. Some are also concerned that they are not finding that personal connection that you can make with your provider when you're doing this through telehealth or in this medium. And some are having difficulty hearing or seeing their providers during their visits. And also others have issues about privacy. Is it really private when you're broadcasting across the internet, your visits? So let's see here. Okay, voice-first technology is also an available technology in 2020 for productive aging. You may have heard Alexa or Siri or Google Assistant. These are products and services that are common and available to you commercially. Essentially, with voice-first, you have removed the barrier of access of requiring physical capacity to access the technology and even some cognitive requirements. For instance, on my TV remote from AT&T, I got a brand, I'm now subscribing to AT&T TV, I think it's called. They gave us a new remote and it has a microphone in the center of it where I can just push that and simply ask for what I want on TV, like CNN, or I no longer have to remember the combinations of buttons or diving into the menus to access Netflix, for instance. My husband's probably taught me 1,000 times, and for some reason, I cannot remember what combination of buttons I need to get to Netflix. But now I just press the microphone and say, Netflix. So you can, if you think about this in the same scenario as an older adult who has other chronic conditions such as Parkinson's disease, the person does not have to operate the small buttons any longer. Or the person with memory problems, like I've been experiencing, doesn't have to recall the steps necessary to maintaining independence in accessing the TV. Remote monitoring is also on the rise, such that providers are working with patients and caregivers who are working with family and friends to keep track of older adults' health from a distance for the purposes of either prevention or health maintenance. I had a patient he was a pilot and his wife had severe disability, but she was able to remain at home independently while he was gone with the support from a remote monitoring system he set up throughout the house where he could check on her whenever it was necessary. And he also had various alerts set on his phone such that if she entered unsafe areas of the house, like if the basement door was opened, that it would alert him, and then the neighbor could be called immediately to go help. You can see that monitoring like this, though, could pose a problem with someone's privacy. Is it better for her to be able to stay at home independently, or for her to have privacy and not feel like she's being watched at all times by her husband at any point? The couple chose the former. Hearing technology continues to advance with more attractive, lower cost products available directly to the consumer. More and more what they call smart hearables have come available, whether it be earbuds with artificial intelligence added to them. They can detect falls, and they have accompanying apps that can adjust hearing aids settings in the moment for a variety of scenarios like noisy restaurants or sitting in a theater. So TuneFork is just one example of a hearing technology app that can personalize your audio from smart devices to create the ultimate hearing experience. I must put in a note here. I have no commercial relationship or interest in any of the products that I show you today, just FYI. And in part from the stay-at-home orders, in-home fitness for seniors has boomed. This allows people to avoid having to go to the gym or other centers to get the needed exercise. Companies like Vivo, which is an interactive online strength training program for older people, have cropped up everywhere. So this is just one example, but it's a way that seniors can stay fit in the comfort of their own home while recognizing that they have unique fitness needs. And along the in-home fitness trend, I have been developing and researching Moving Up, which is a Jaren Technology smartphone app to improve physical activity patterns in older people. This app is designed to target changeable barriers and obstacles that get in the way of older adults living active lifestyles. Therefore, it addresses issues such as how to break up sedentary time with brief bouts of movement, or how to introduce bursts of physical activity embedded into your personalized daily routine. As well as it touches on refocusing your thoughts and motivation to engage in physical activity by promoting a positive outlook on aging. Remember, I talked a little bit about that stereotype embodiment theory. That's where that comes in. The app suite feature is paired with a standard activity tracking app. I've completed a co-design workshop with 13 older adults who beta tested the prototype and provided their critical appraisal of the app. And as of last week, we just finished collection of a 100-person 4-month trial aimed at determining the active ingredients of the refined app. And we'll be analyzing the effectiveness to improve activity patterns, as well as the feedback participants provided in the exit interview. And we'll use those data to provide, to create an optimized version of the app, which we'll test once again. Simultaneously, I have a trial underway that is aimed at tailoring this particular app to be usable by people with mild cognitive impairments or mild dementia. We are actively seeking participants for that study. And furthermore, in collaboration with Dr. Karen Lincoln and the Advocates for African American Elders, we are working to create a culturally tailored version of the app for African American older people. Okay. Caregiver technology is emerging in the market as well. Interestingly enough, caregiving technology adoption is actually not very high at all. Only about 50% are using technology to help manage the health of their care recipients. Part of this statistic is influenced by the fact that many caregivers themselves are older adults themselves. So what are caregivers using technology for? Primarily, they're using it to track their care recipients' finances. They're also using it to track their own personal health records. And finally, they're using assisted devices themselves. Other technology out there is helping to train the caregiving workforce and also to create empathy in caregivers. So an app called Walk Through Dementia, it's from the Alzheimer's research in the UK. It's a virtual reality app designed to put you in the shoes of someone living with dementia. And I do this with my students. They get a sense of what is it like? What does it look like? What does it sound like or feel like to live with dementia? So there is also a training version specific to healthcare professionals as well, and it's entitled The Lived Experience of Dementia. In terms of my own work, I am working towards pairing in-home fitness solutions with caregiving technology. So I'm putting two of those categories together. We know that physical activity is associated with improved cognitive health. We also know that family caregivers are the ones who carry the burden in helping persons with dementia engage in wellness activity. So a system that can help persons with dementia to somewhat independently engage in wellness and self-care so as to reduce the burden on caregivers. This is desperately needed. So in collaboration with a group called Active Sitting, we are working to develop an active seating system that can facilitate safe, enjoyable, and stimulating activity to reduce long bouts of cognitive and physical sedentariness in persons with dementia. I am proposing an accessory app to their active seating system, and I'm going to be a little bit vague at this point because of proprietary information. But right now, I'm conceiving of a prompting feature that is unique for the cognitive level of persons with mild impairment and possibly even severe dementia, depending, so that they will utilize the active seating system without the need for the caregiver to be present. I'm also proposing what's called a conversation starter that will support meaningful conversation and socialization between persons with dementia and someone else in the room. And finally, I propose a feature that will foster relaxation and calm with the intention of reducing what we call behavioral expressions like agitation, which is a common burden that caregivers and persons with dementia must carry. Personal emergency response systems and services and fall detection are also very popular right now in Geron technology. And our national agenda for this in the past decade has made a goal to reduce falls in older adults. While response systems don't necessarily prevent falls, they can help to reduce the negative events that may happen post-fall, such as not having assistance available after the fall to get you to the hospital. Apple Watch was the thought leader in the commercial realm, launching the fall detection feature in their smartwatch. And actually, if you have a smartwatch, it's automatically activated if you enter in that you are 55 years and older. You have to deactivate it if you don't want it. Some drawbacks are that having this feature on for people who are engaged in high impact types of activities, it falsely assumes that you've fallen. I've also been working in the fall prevention arena as opposed to fall detection, like I just showed you. In collaboration with Brookside Research and Development, I've tested the Fallscape system, which is a multimedia educational fall prevention system whereby older adults are immersed in this first-person experience. Remember, I said situated learning means that you have to learn in an authentic context as possible. It gives real-life scenarios like being in a laundromat or being at the airport or in the grocery store or walking on a trail. Following this intervention, older adults demonstrated improved knowledge of fall prevention strategies, as well as engagement in fall prevention behaviors, which is what we really wanted, was fall prevention behaviors to change. We recently received word that will be funded to expand this to persons with dementia and their caregivers. Okay, almost there. Virtual reality can also be used as a tool to support productive and healthy aging. VR can offer out-of-reach experiences to help people check things off those bucket lists, like visiting the Eiffel Tower or seeing the Northern Lights. It can also be used for transition to settings, so a person can experience a new residential setting without ever having to tour it in person first. We also have a whole team here of USC researchers collaborating through the Sensorimotor Assessment and Rehabilitation Training and Virtual Reality Center, or what we can easily say, Smart VR, who are doing amazing work on applying virtual reality to health and wellness and rehabilitation. And last, but certainly not least, technology training for older adults. As we circle back to that notion that technology sits at the very core of functioning in society, making sure we have appropriate training to help seniors overcome the digital divide is critical. Listed here are just two examples of self-driven learning resources available to you. The Geeks on Tour is one. This is peer-led demonstrations on how to use various smartphone and tablet devices. I must warn that it's actually high-level cheesiness, but they use really great demonstration and explanation that could be useful if you can get past the rainbow hats and the spinning and whatnot. I also highly recommend AARP's instructional videos. This is an interactive smartphone and tablet learning experience. They have excellent graphics. They walk you step by step on how to do different things on your tablet and smartphone and provide you feedback on your performance. So where is the direction of technology heading? As I presented to you before, this table now predicts that the trends of the market and where we're going with aging-related technology. This market report is by the Aging and Health Technology Watch. It was put out just last week, so it's truly hot off the press. I've listed the website in the resource slide that you'll get later. In summary, we see that healthcare providers are going to be embracing telehealth, especially as CMS moves to permanently reimburse for such services. We also see that voice-first technology will continue to advance, so that you'll be saying "Hello, Prius" to turn on your car, likely in the future. Caregiving technology will be adopted more readily as sensor-based and remote monitoring continue to advance and reduce in cost. Falls detection, this will move from on-the-body wearables to in-the-room sensors, and they are working towards getting coverage for such technology in terms of insurance coverage. Provider referral to telefitness, like that Vivo program I discussed to you, will be a popular thing to do. Virtual reality will become more mainstream to help with chronic condition management. And technology training for older people will become a must and readily available. So I urge you now to take the reins. Technology awaits. The Age Tech Market Map of 2020 has been distributed to you as a supplemental handout for the presentation today. What this is, I know the images are small, but in your packet, you're actually able to click on each of these logos, and it will take you to the site that describes the technology. So you can see that they have technology for independence or wellness or medication management, and other categories are not shown here, such as end-of-life care and management. Human IT is another nonprofit that provides free technology support to older adults. Encore provides lifelong education classes for free through Pierce College. They have classes going online right now. In a resource I just learned about called Genspace, the Wallace Annenberg Genspace in LA, they'll be opening up a futuristic tech-forward building that's in Koreatown that's underway, and will be launching virtually in the summer as well. And a number of other resources are here. And then, of course, I have to put a shameless plug for research. Get involved in research if you can. Here are just a few ways that you can explore research in USC, or also through the larger government options through clinicaltrials.gov. And I want to thank you so much for your attention, and thanks to all the Half Century Trojan Club members for inviting me to speak today. I really do welcome any questions. I'm sorry I went so long.
Hello, Professor. This is Tanya. Thank you so much for your presentation. That was so interesting. We have quite a few questions here. And then, of course, attendees, please go ahead and type in your questions and we'll go ahead and get to them as soon as we can. First off, we have a question from Jay. Young people are often criticized for spending too much on technology and not socializing. I suspect this might be worse with COVID. Are you seeing this happening with older adults as well?
I have not. I have seen an uptick in terms of using social media platforms to communicate, but it hasn't become problematic from a health standpoint, at least from my clinician standpoint. What I am seeing is that TV watching is going up more so, and so sedentary behaviors is problematic. But honestly, if someone is socializing on Facebook or on the phone or whatever it is, and they're walking around, I'm happy.
That's great. Thank you. We also have a question about research. What are some of the major advancements that are currently in the works, and what will tech look like in relation to older populations in 5 years and then 10 years from now? And we'd also like to hear from the students as they are in the midst of this new technology.
I can say in terms of advancements that are happening now and will likely continue to happen, right now, a lot of the money is going towards advancement in dementia care and solutions for dementia. And a lot of that is coming up with technological solutions. So as you might have seen in my own research, I kept saying, oh, and we're doing this with people with dementia, or we're working towards tailoring these products for people with dementia. So I think that, and honestly, the government just put more money into research, so it's easier to get funding with dementia in mind. So it seems like to me that that's really where a lot of the technological research is heading. Students, feel free to jump in and where you think technology is heading.
Yeah, I'll add that things like the Apple Watch are constantly getting updated. Last year, the blood oxygen monitoring was added to the watch. Obviously, with COVID and everything, that was a great feature to be added. Additionally, they're trying to move towards adding things like blood pressure and like possibly measuring sugar levels. But things like that, in addition to being compatible with more like third-party devices, such as actual blood pressure monitors that you can put on your arm and link it to your phone, so that people like your primary care providers can actually access that information rather than you having to constantly report it to them. They can instantly see it through whatever app you're using or through your phone. Other things like sugar monitors for diabetics are already being used. And I would think that greater accessibility features will also be added to phones and watches to kind of make it easier to see, to read, to use in general, as people end up losing things like hearing or vision.
And to add to that, aside from the wearables and the specialty sensors, the trends nowadays are going into smart home technology, AI technology, because aging in place and productive aging has been like the forefront now in technology. And aside from that, in terms of health prospects, there's K4 Connect, Centrix, Care Predict, the Microsoft Azure program. So pretty much it's all health via technology, like remotely, especially now with how like medicine and it's like, revolutionized because of the pandemic.
Mhm. Good. Oh, and also an interesting thing, we talk a lot about wearables, but they are working on what are called ingestibles. So these, it's like a technological pill that you swallow so that you can monitor various things. So it's getting really interesting in that arena. I'm not quite on board with the ingestible products yet.
That's very interesting. I don't think I am either. Actually, I'd like to hear from the students a little bit more. Do you think that you can share, what year you are, where you come from, and then what your research is and where you hope to go in the future after graduation?
Yeah, sure, I could start. My name is John J, and I am currently a second year in the Division of Occupational Therapy and Occupational Science. I got those two mixed up, occupational science, occupational therapy. I am helping out with data analysis in conjunction with an RCT that is studying, like Stacey said, about it's about an app that could help increase physical activity for older adults. And it's just really a great privilege to work under her knowledge about this whole expertise in this field and area. And my plans is to apply for the OTD position at Rancho Los Amigos and hopefully complete my doctorate year next year. Hopefully integrate this assistive tech in what I do. I know there's a great driver rehabilitation program in the outpatient center at Rancho, so it would be a great segue to integrate what I'm learning in this research into that practice. And I'll popcorn it to Daphne.
Hi, my name's Daphne. I'm also a second year student, and I'm currently in my second field work, and I'm working with Stacey on the Heart Lab that is studying that app with John Jay. I will be completing my residency at Keck Hospital, and I'll be working in acute care. I have experience there already with the neuro floor and working mostly with patients who have experienced strokes. And I hope to possibly continue exploring that and in the future move into work with the VA.
Hello, everyone. I'm Raphael. I'm actually Stacey's resident in the OTD program at USC. I come from a clinical occupational therapy background, and I was hoping I can learn a lot more about research under her tutelage, and it's certainly getting there, and hoping I could translate that into my future into geriatric rehabilitation. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, students. I think that the future is definitely bright. We're producing this type of, the future right here. USC is doing amazing work. And you saw that Professor Niemiec listed some opportunities to get involved in the research and help be a part of carrying that forward. Let's wrap up with a question on actionable items. What can people start doing today to take that next step? What are some things that they should be able to manage currently as they prepare for the future?
I think one thing is to help your peers. If you are comfortable with any sort of technology, be willing to ask your friend, ask your neighbor, do you need help with that? Right. And I know right now it's a little bit challenging because we're having to be distant, but there is opportunity to be able to share your own knowledge. So I think that's one thing that I would really encourage you to do. And we know that peer-led instruction actually works really well. And I also encourage you to just start exploring. I know a lot of people can be afraid that they'll break something. But you know what? It's okay. There are ways to back up and to get out of that. And so I listed several of those resources of ways you can start just learning more about technology that can support your everyday living. And be open. As I had talked about, some people are afraid of the stigma that might come with using certain assistive devices. But for instance, with hearing technology, there is research that shows if you just address your hearing, that prevention of dementia is, there is such high level of prevention if you just address the hearing. Excuse me. That's one small thing you can do, is just be open to having a hearing aid. And that will prevent a lot of things that come with dementia, which is social isolation or being able to understand the environment around you. So those are a few things that I would say, do now if you can.
That's great advice. Thank you. Well, as Trojans, we know that we certainly, help each other through these challenging times. And yes, taking that first step is key. I haven't gotten an Apple Watch yet, but I definitely will now after hearing Daphne's cool announcements on what they can do. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Professor and students. I'm going to hand it over to Janet Tunkovich for a few closing remarks.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Oh dear. Thank you, Dr. Schepens Niemiec. And okay, I hate to say this, technologically, I lost what I was saying. So
that's okay, Janet. We have the slides, so you can continue right into talking about our programs.
Okay. So, all right, I hope that you'll all join us for our Half-Century Trojans virtual this year, going back to College Day, Wednesday, February 3rd. And that's going to be really fun. We have so many activities planned that day that I hope you'll join us in the morning when we get started. And there's some great speakers, especially our president, Dr. Carol Folt, will be speaking to us. She's our keynote speaker, so not to be missed. And we have another Zoom on coming up on Monday, March 15th at 10 o'clock in the morning with Kim Thomas Barrios, USC McMorrow Neighborhood Academic Initiative, which will be interesting because it's the group that is around the university. So I've heard a lot about it before, so I'm looking forward to hearing her speak. Okay, I'm gonna thank you. Oh, and this is so important. This is these are our scholarship students, and that's what Half-Century Trojans, our special program is that we have a scholarship endowment that enables us to give scholarships to 20 students each year. And these are scholarships, $5,000 a semester. So that's $10,000 a year. And that goes to students who have a grandparent or great-grandparent that is a Trojan alum, so who graduated from USC. So anyway, please notice that you can text HCT to 71777 and give to the endowment. So thank you for everyone who has contributed in the past. Okay. Do we have another? Okay, is that it? All right. Sorry about that. So fight on, and we'll see you on February 3rd.